The plasma bolt missed Marcus Chen's head by 3 inches. He felt the heat singe his hair as he rolled behind a crystalline outcrop, his heart hammering against his ribs. The Vorath scout ship had appeared from nowhere, weapons hot, targeting the small shuttle he'd been repairing on the moon's surface. He'd barely had time to grab his toolkit before the first shot punched through the shuttle's hull. "Defensive positions!" someone shouted in a language that wasn't quite language, more like music pressed directly into his mind. Marcus risked a glance around the outcrop. 20 meters away, 3 figures in ornate armor surrounded a smaller one, their weapons tracking the circling scout ship overhead. The armor gleamed with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in distress. Another bolt struck near Marcus's position, showering him with molten crystal fragments. He swore, patting out sparks on his jacket. The Vorath were slavers, pirates, the nightmare that every independent hauler feared. And they'd just found what looked like royalty from one of the aligned species. The small figure in the center stumbled. Young, Marcus realized. Maybe a child. The guards tightened their formation, but one of them fell as the scout ship made another pass, its weapons carving a line through the moon's surface. Marcus's hands moved before his brain caught up. He yanked open his toolkit, fingers finding the mining charges he used for breaking up ore deposits. 15 meters, he had 1 shot. The scout ship banked for another attack run, its belly exposed for just a moment. He threw. The charge stuck to the ship's underbelly with a magnetic clamp. Marcus dove flat as the explosion tore through the scout's power core. The ship lurched sideways, smoke pouring from a ragged hole, and crashed into the lunar surface 300 meters away. Silence. Then alarms. Then the hiss of atmosphere escaping from the wreckage. Marcus stood slowly, hands raised. The 3 guards had their weapons trained on him now. Up close, he could see they weren't just wearing armor. The bioluminescent patterns were part of their skin, flowing across silvery scales like liquid light. Their eyes had no pupils, just deep wells of violet that seemed to look straight through him. The child spoke. Her voice was clear, crystalline, carrying that same musical quality that bypassed his ears and went straight to his understanding. "You saved us." "I saved myself," Marcus said, keeping his hands visible. "You just happened to be in the neighborhood." She was taller than Marcus by a head, her bearing radiating controlled violence. "You are human. Guilty. Humans do not travel to the contested moons. This is neutral territory under the Sovereign Accords." "Didn't know that. Just needed a quiet place to patch my shuttle. Looks like we both had bad timing." Marcus gestured toward the wreckage, though I think mine was slightly better. The child moved between her guards, studying Marcus with ancient eyes that didn't match her small frame. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 in human years, but something in her gaze made Marcus want to stand straighter. "You used a mining charge?" she said. "Modified for magnetic adhesion. You calculated trajectory, velocity, and detonation timing in less than 4 seconds. Lots of practice. With combat situations, with desperate situations. Not quite the same thing, but the skill set overlaps." The head guard made a small gesture. The other 2 lowered their weapons fractionally. "I am Shield Captain Theron. This is Princess Liara of the Celestial Throne. You have acted in her defense. By the old laws, you are now under our protection." "Great," Marcus said. "Any chance that protection includes a ride off this rock? Because that explosion is going to attract every scavenger in 3 sectors." As if summoned by his words, 3 more ships appeared on the horizon, their silhouettes unmistakable. Vorath reinforcements. The crashed scout must have gotten off a distress call. Princess Liara touched Theron's arm. "We cannot fight them. The honor guard is wounded. Our ship is days away." Theron's scales darkened, the pattern shifting to deep crimson. "Then we hold here until relief arrives or we fall." "Or," Marcus said, his mind already racing through possibilities, "you trust the desperate human who's very good at desperate situations." He pointed toward a ridge system half a kilometer away. "Deep enough to hide heat signatures, narrow enough that they can't bring ships inside. We make them come to us on foot, pick them off in confined spaces where their numbers don't matter." "You would fight beside us?" Theron asked. "You have no stake in this." Marcus looked at the princess, at this child who stood with her shoulders back and her chin up even as death approached from 3 directions. He thought about the kind of people who protected children, and the kind who hunted them. "I've got a stake now," he said. "Besides, I left my good toolkit on that shuttle. Can't let that go to waste." Theron's scales rippled with something that might have been approval or might have been amusement. "Then we run." "Princess," Stay close to the human." They ran. Behind them, the Vorath ships grew larger against the lunar sky, their weapons already beginning to glow with terrible light. Marcus kept pace with the guards, one hand on the princess's shoulder, guiding her over the rough terrain. His lungs burned in the thin atmosphere. His legs screamed. But he'd been in worse situations. Usually. Maybe. The cave entrance yawned ahead like salvation. Marcus pulled a remote detonator from his belt, pressed it against Theron's palm. "When they come through that entrance, press this. I've got charges in my belt. We can collapse the entrance after we're through. And trap ourselves inside? These caves go deep. Old mining tunnels connect to the other side of the ridge system. We'll have a way out. They won't know that until it's too late." Marcus grinned despite the fear. "Trust the human with lots of practice in desperate situations." Princess Liara's hand found his. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "I trust you." Something in those words hit harder than any plasma bolt. Marcus squeezed back once, then released her as they plunged into darkness. The cave swallowed them whole just as the first Vorath ship touched down behind them. Footsteps echoed in the narrow passage. Many footsteps. "Coming fast!" Marcus began placing charges along the cave walls, his fingers working by feel and memory. Behind him, Theron positioned her guards in defensive angles. The princess pressed against the cave wall, silent, watching everything. The footsteps grew louder. Voices called out in the harsh, guttural language of the Vorath. Marcus set the last charge and backed deeper into the tunnel. "Ready," he whispered. Light flared at the cave entrance. Silhouettes poured through. Theron's finger found the detonator. She looked at Marcus one last time, asking a question without words. He nodded. She pressed the button. The world exploded into thunder and falling stone. When the dust cleared and the ringing faded from Marcus's ears, the entrance was gone. Sealed. But they were alive. And somewhere in the darkness ahead, freedom waited. Probably. Maybe. If his memory of the survey charts he'd studied 3 days ago was accurate and not just wishful thinking. "Forward," Theron said. Her scales glowed in the darkness, casting enough light to see by. "We trust the human now." All the way. Marcus led them deeper into the stone, hoping his trust in himself was justified. The tunnel network stretched like veins through the moon's crust, some passages wide enough for the group to walk side by side, others forcing them to squeeze through sideways with stones scraping their backs. Marcus navigated by instinct and half-remembered survey data, taking turns that felt right even when he couldn't explain why. Princess Liara kept pace without complaint, though her breathing came harder in the thin cave air. "Stop!" Theron commanded. Her hand rose, scales flashing warning colors. Everyone froze. Voices echoed from somewhere ahead. Then behind them, the Vorath had split their forces, Marcus realized. Some mining through the collapsed entrance, others finding alternate routes through the tunnel system.
"They were being boxed in. How many?"
Marcus whispered. Theron's eyes unfocused, her scales rippling with patterns Marcus didn't understand. 6 ahead. 4 behind. More coming. She looked at him. "Your desperate situations, do they include being outnumbered 10-1 in confined spaces? Usually they include running away very quickly. Not an option here." Then we changed the odds. Marcus studied the tunnel ahead. Water stains marked the walls, old mineral deposits crystallized in strange formations. This moon used to have underground rivers before the atmosphere collapsed. These tunnels flood during the summer thaw when the polar caps sublimate. "It is not summer," Theron said flatly. "No, but the polar caps are mostly methane and nitrogen ices. Very combustible when vaporized and mixed with oxygen in the right proportions." Marcus pulled out his remaining mining charges. "I can trigger an artificial thaw in the cap feeds. The pressure wave will flood these tunnels in about 3 minutes. That would kill us too. Not if we're in a sealed section. Some of these old mining tunnels have emergency bulkheads." Marcus pointed to faint markings on the tunnel wall, standard mining industry symbols warning of flood zones. "We get to safe ground, trigger the thaw, and watch the Vorath learn why you don't chase people into sealed environments controlled by someone who knows mining systems." One of the other guards, younger than Theron, spoke up. "And if your memory is wrong about the bulkheads, then we all die together. Democracy in action." Princess Liara stepped forward. "He saved us once already. He will save us again." She looked at Marcus with those ancient knowing eyes. "You are not like other humans I have studied. You think in circles and spirals, not lines. The Vorath think in lines. They will die for it." "Kid's got a point," Marcus said to Theron. "Also, we don't have much choice. They'll reach us in about 30 seconds regardless. Theron's scales cycled through colors Marcus couldn't interpret. Finally, they settled on something like resigned amusement. We follow the human spiral thinking. Move. They ran deeper into the tunnels, Marcus reading the mining symbols like a treasure map. The voices behind them grew closer. Plasma fire scorched the walls, missing them by meters but closing the gap. Ahead, a junction split into 3 passages. Marcus barely paused before choosing the left path, his feet carrying him toward a memory of survey data he'd only glanced at. The tunnel widened into a small chamber. And there, like a gift from whatever gods watched over desperate humans, stood an old emergency bulkhead. Rusted, ancient, but intact. Marcus threw himself at the control panel, praying the power cell still held a charge. The panel flickered. Died. Marcus slammed his fist against it. The panel sparked to life. Everyone inside. Now. They piled through the bulkhead opening. Behind them, the Vorath voices turned to shouts.
They'd been spotted.
Plasma bolts struck the chamber walls. Marcus's fingers flew across the control panel, overriding safety protocols, forcing the bulkhead to close faster than its mechanisms were designed to handle. The Vorath charged into the chamber. 10 of them, heavily armed, their reptilian faces twisted with predatory satisfaction. They had their prey cornered. They raised their weapons. Marcus hit the final command. The bulkhead slammed shut with a screech of protesting metal. Plasma fire splashed against the other side but didn't penetrate. For now, they were safe. For now. The charges, Theron said. You need to place them at the polar cap feeds. Where? Marcus pulled out his handheld scanner, the one he used for finding ore deposits. He adjusted its frequency, searching for methane signatures. 1/2 kilometer that way. Sealed tunnel. I'll need to cut through the bulkhead, place the charges, and get back before the pressure wave hits. Alone! Someone needs to stay with the princess. That's you. Marcus handed Theron the detonator. Give me 5 minutes, then press this whether I'm back or not. That is not acceptable. It's necessary. Your job is protecting her. Mine is apparently blowing things up at inconvenient times. Marcus smiled, though he felt nothing resembling humor. Consider it the human specialty. Princess Lyra caught his arm. You will come back. Plan to. Promise me. Marcus knelt, so they were eye to eye. This child who carried herself like royalty, who faced danger with courage beyond her years, she deserved better than a convenient lie. I promise I'll do everything I can to come back. But if I don't, you remember something. You're worth saving. Whatever happens, don't let anyone tell you different. She hugged him. Quick, fierce, desperate. Then released him and stepped back with her shoulders straight and her head high. Go, save us again. I command it as princess, Marcus went. The sealed tunnel required cutting through 3 separate bulkheads with his plasma torch, each one eating precious seconds. His scanner led him deeper into the moon's crust, toward the methane ice deposits that fed the old river systems. The tunnel grew colder. Frost formed on the walls. Marcus's breath clouded in front of his face. The final chamber opened into a vast underground reservoir. Methane ice stretched away into darkness, ancient, compressed, waiting. Marcus placed his charges along the fault lines his scanner identified, points where the ice met porous stone. The detonation would crack the ice, flash heat it into gas, and send that gas screaming through every connected tunnel at explosive pressures. He worked with frozen fingers, securing each charge, linking them to the detonator Theron carried. His scanner showed 3 minutes elapsed. 2 minutes to get back. It would be close, very close. A sound behind him. Marcus spun, reaching for the plasma torch that served as his only weapon. 3 Vorath stood in the tunnel entrance. They'd found another route. Of course they had. The universe loved these kinds of jokes. The human who thinks he's clever, the leader said in broken standard. You trap yourself here. Stupid. Marcus kept his hands visible but ready. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. You followed me into a chamber I'm about to fill with explosive gas. That's not stupid. That's evolution in action. The Vorath raised their weapons. Marcus dove behind an ice formation, his plasma fire carved chunks from the frozen surface. His scanner showed 4 minutes elapsed. 1 minute until detonation. He needed to buy time, needed to keep them talking, needed them close to the charges when everything went wrong. Question, Marcus called out. Why are you hunting a child? What's the payoff? Because from where I'm standing, this seems like a lot of effort for one small person. The princess? The leader laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Worth more than your whole world, human. The queen will pay kingdoms for her return, or her enemies will pay kingdoms for her death. Either way, we profit. Marcus's mind raced. The queen. Queen of what? He'd assumed the princess came from one of the minor aligned species, but the Vorath leader's tone suggested something bigger, something that made a child worth dying for. Too bad you'll never collect, Marcus said. He pulled his last mining charge from his belt, the one he'd kept as backup. 'Cause in about 30 seconds, this whole chamber becomes a pressure cooker, and you're the main ingredient. He threw the charge toward the ceiling, not at the Vorat, at the ice above them. The charge stuck, its magnetic clamp securing it to a metal support beam from the old mining operation. The Vorath looked up, understood. They ran. So did Marcus, sprinting for the tunnel entrance as the timer on his charge counted down. 5 seconds. 4. He cleared the chamber entrance and kept running. 3. 2. Behind him, the Vorath were still in the chamber. Trapped between his charge and the timed detonation Theron would trigger any second. 1. Marcus hit the ground, covered his head. His charge detonated. The chamber ceiling collapsed, ice and stone filling the space where the Vorath had been standing. Then Theron's charges blew. The moon itself seemed to scream. Methane ice flash vaporized into gas. Pressure built. The tunnel behind Marcus became a cannon barrel with him at the muzzle. The pressure wave hit like a hammer. Marcus felt himself lifted, thrown, smashed against tunnel walls. The world became noise and pain and the certainty that he'd miscalculated, that desperate situations sometimes had no solutions, that he'd broken his promise to a princess who trusted him. Then hands grabbed him. Strong hands with scales that glowed in the darkness. Theron dragged him through a bulkhead opening as the pressure wave roared past. The bulkhead sealed. The noise became muffled thunder on the other side of thick metal. Silence. Ringing ears, the taste of blood. Marcus opened his eyes to find Theron's face inches from his own, her scales cycling through patterns that might have been concern, or might have been anger, or might have been something the human brain wasn't equipped to interpret. You promised the princess you would return, Theron said. Humans lie often, only when it's really important. A scaled hand slapped the back of his head. Hard enough to hurt, but not hard enough to damage. Foolish, brave. Foolish. The princess chose her trust well, or poorly. I have not decided which. Marcus sat up, checking for broken bones. Everything hurt, but everything worked. Did it work? Are the Vorath gone? Swept away in the flood. Those that survived the pressure wave are trapped in sealed sections with no way out.
We heard their communications cut off.
One by one. Theron helped Marcus to his feet. You drowned them in methane. Ingenious. Terrible. The queen will either reward you or execute you, also undecided. There's that queen reference again. Who exactly am I dealing with here? Marcus limped back toward the chamber where they'd left the princess. His entire body felt like one giant bruise. I saved a princess. That's nice. But the way everyone keeps talking about the queen suggests I may have accidentally inserted myself into something way above my pay grade. Theron's scales flashed with dark amusement.
You truly do not know.
The princess did not tell you. Of course she would not. She tests your character by omission. They reached the bulkhead chamber. Theron triggered the door. Princess Lara stood inside, flanked by the other 2 guards. Her eyes found Marcus immediately, and something in her small face relaxed. You kept your promise, she said. Tried my best. That is all honor requires. The princess stepped forward, and suddenly her bearing changed. The child disappeared. What stood before Marcus was something older, something that carried the weight of civilizations. Marcus Chen of Earth. You have saved my life twice in one day. You have fought beside my guard.
You have risked everything for a stranger.
This is noted. Recorded. Kid, I appreciate the sentiment, but we're still stuck in a cave system on a hostile moon. Maybe save the speeches for when we're somewhere with actual atmosphere? The princess smiled. It was not a child's smile. You speak plain truth in the presence of royalty. This too is noted. Come. Our ship approaches. My mother has been tracking our distress beacon.
She will arrive with the entire honor fleet.
And she will want to meet the human who saved her daughter. Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. Your mother. The Queen. Yes, Queen Ascendant Valeris of the Celestial Throne. Ruler of 300 systems, commander of 17 fleets, mother of stars, as the old songs say. Princess Liara tilted her head. She is protective of her children. Obsessively so, some would say. You have done her a service beyond value. She will reward you, or claim you. With my mother, they are often the same thing. Theron made a sound that might have been a cough or might have been suppressed laughter. Marcus looked at the shield captain for help. What does she mean, claim me? The Queen's honor is legendary, Theron said carefully, as is her tendency to keep those who serve her well very close, under her protection, under her control. There is little difference in her mind. So, I saved a princess, and now the most powerful ruler in this sector is going to... Marcus trailed off, his mind spinning through possibilities, none of them particularly comforting. Want you? The princess finished. My mother always wants what saves me. It is her way. She took Marcus's hand again, her grip gentle this time. But I will speak for you. I will tell her you are to be honored, not controlled. You have my word? The word of a child carries weight with an obsessive queen. The word of the first daughter carries all the weight in the kingdom. Princess Liara's eyes gleamed with something ancient and knowing. You saved me. Now I will save you. Fair trade, human Marcus. Before Marcus could respond, the tunnel filled with light. A ship, no, a fleet, descended from above. The moon's surface must have been breached, the cave system exposed to space. Except the ships created their own atmosphere, fields of energy that pressurized the environment around them. The largest vessel settled directly above their position, its underbelly opening to reveal a boarding platform. Soldiers poured out, hundreds of them, all wearing armor that made Theron's look like practice gear. They moved with perfect precision, securing the area, scanning for threats, establishing a perimeter in seconds. Then the soldiers parted. A figure descended the platform with measured steps. The soldiers bowed. Theron and her guards immediately dropped to one knee. Princess Liara released Marcus's hand and knelt as well. Marcus stayed standing. Partly because no one had told him to kneel, mostly because his legs had decided they were done taking orders today. He watched the figure approach. She was tall, taller even than Theron, her scales shifting through patterns of silver and gold that seemed to contain their own light. Where the princess's eyes were ancient, the queen's were eternal. They fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him want to step back. He didn't. The queen commanded attention like a black hole commanded gravity. You, the queen said. Her voice was not musical like her daughter's. It was authority made sound, command made manifest. You are the human Marcus Chen, independent hauler. Usually much less dramatic circumstances. He was babbling. He knew he was babbling. The most powerful being in 300 systems was staring at him, and his mouth had decided now was the perfect time to stop consulting with his brain. You saved my daughter. The queen circled him slowly, studying him from every angle. You fought beside my guard. You destroyed a Vorath hunting party using mining charges and tunnel floods. Theron's report is quite detailed. Quite interesting. Just did what needed doing. No, the queen stopped directly in front of him. You did what no one else could have done. My guard is trained for combat. You are trained for survival. There is a difference. A significant difference. She reached out, one scaled finger tracing a line down Marcus's jaw. He managed not to flinch. Barely. I have a problem, Marcus Chen of Earth. I have a daughter who nearly died because my enemies are bold. I have a kingdom that sees weakness when they should see strength. And I have a human who appears from nowhere, saves everything, and asks for nothing in return. This creates complications. Complications? Marcus's mouth was very dry. I cannot let you simply leave. You know too much. You have seen my daughter vulnerable. You have proven yourself useful beyond measure. The queen's hand moved from his jaw to his chest, resting directly over his heart. And I do not release what I find valuable. Your Majesty. Princess Liara stood. He acted with honor. He deserves freedom, not captivity. We will have both. Freedom within my service. A position worthy of his skills. Protection, resources, authority. The queen's scales flashed with colors Marcus couldn't interpret. I am offering you what most beings would kill for, human. A place in my fleet. My personal guard. My inner circle. You saved my daughter. Now you will help me keep her safe forever. Marcus looked at the princess. She gave him the smallest shake of her head, a warning in her ancient eyes. He looked at Theron, who remained kneeling, her expression carefully neutral. He looked at the hundreds of soldiers surrounding them, the massive fleet overhead, the queen who could end his existence with a word. He looked at his ruined shuttle in the distance, his freedom, his old life. "And if I refuse?" he asked, knowing the answer. "Then you become a security risk." "And I eliminate security risks." The queen's voice held no malice, no emotion at all. "Just fact. You have saved my daughter. For that I offer you a choice. Serve willingly and live with honor, or refuse and die with dignity. I respect either decision, but you will decide now, here, in front of my daughter, so she understands the weight of the actions she inspires." Princess Liara's face remained calm, but her hands clenched into small fists. Theron's scales had darkened to almost black. The soldiers waited, silent, ready to enforce whatever decision their queen made. Marcus felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on him, the pressure of a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Serve or die. Join or disappear. The universe had taken his desperate situation and cranked it to a whole new level. "Before I answer," Marcus said slowly, "I need to understand something. You're not offering me a job. You're claiming me, like property, like a resource. That's what this actually is." "Yes." The queen didn't deny it, didn't soften it. "I claim what I value. It is my nature, my right. My responsibility as queen. You are valuable. Therefore you are mine. Or you are dead. There is no third option. That is sovereignty. That is survival. I have ruled for 300 years because I understand a fundamental truth. Let nothing valuable escape." The queen leaned close, her breath cold against Marcus's face. "You may find my methods harsh, you may resent your lack of choice,
But you will live.
you will be honored. And you will be the tool that keeps my daughter safe from the thousands who wish her harm. Is that not worth your freedom?" Marcus thought about the princess's hand in his, about her courage in the face of death, about the trust in her eyes when she'd said, "I trust you." He thought about dying here, alone, unmourned except by a child he'd known for less than a day. He thought about living, about staying close to something worth protecting, about trading his freedom for purpose. Some bargains were terrible and necessary. Some choices were no choice at all. "I have a condition," he said. The queen's eyes narrowed. "You negotiate with me? I accept your claim. I'll serve, but on one condition. The princess gets final say on missions involving her safety. Not you. Not your generals. Her. Because I didn't save her so she could live in a cage, even a golden one. She's brave and smart, and she deserves to be treated like both. That's the deal." That's what my service costs. Silence. Total, complete, suffocating silence. The soldiers had stopped breathing. Theron's scales flashed warning colors. Princess Lara stared at Marcus like he'd grown a second head. The queen's face remained perfectly still. 1 second. 2. 3. Then she laughed. Deep, genuine, echoing across the lunar surface. She laughed until the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Until even the princess looked uncertain. "You bargained for her freedom while accepting your own captivity," the queen finally said. "You challenge my authority while submitting to my claim. You protect her with conditions that benefit her at your expense." She stepped back, her scales shifting to brilliant gold. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Welcome to my service, Marcus Chen. You will serve as shield brother to Princess Lyra. You will have authority equal to Theron. You will protect my daughter with your clever mind and desperate solutions. And in return, I grant your condition. She chooses her own path. Within reason. Under supervision. But her path nonetheless."
Marcus felt something unknot in his chest. That's acceptable.
"Of course it is. I am queen. Everything I offer is acceptable." She gestured to her guards. "Take him to the honor fleet. Find him quarters appropriate to his new station. Armor. Weapons. Access to resources. He is shield brother now. He is mine now. Treat him accordingly." The guards moved to obey. Marcus found himself being escorted toward the massive ship overhead. He glanced back once. Princess Liara stood next to her mother, small and fierce, and exactly where she chose to be. She smiled at him. Not a child's smile. A warrior's smile. The smile of someone who just gained an unexpected ally in whatever games princesses played in courts of stars. Theron fell into step beside him as they boarded the ship. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I still have not decided which. Why not both? Because humans rarely survive being both for long.
But you might be the exception. The Queen claimed you.
The princess trusts you. And Theron's scales rippled with something that might have been respect. I look forward to serving alongside you, Shield Brother Marcus. Try not to blow up anything too important, at least not on your first day. The ship's interior was impossibly vast, corridors lined with soldiers and technology that Marcus couldn't begin to understand. They assigned him quarters that were larger than his entire previous ship. They brought him armor that adjusted to fit his human frame. They gave him weapons, access codes, authority that most beings spent lifetimes trying to achieve. And all of it felt like the most beautiful cage in the universe. But cages, Marcus reflected, were only prisons if you couldn't find the doors. And he'd spent his entire life finding doors where others saw walls. The Queen had claimed him. Fine, he'd find a way to work within that. The princess trusted him. Better. He'd find a way to honor that. And somewhere, somehow, he'd find a way to protect the child who'd commanded him to return, who'd believed in him when belief was the rarest currency in the galaxy. Desperate situations. Marcus was beginning to think he specialized in them. And for the first time in years, he was beginning to think that might actually be a good thing. As long as he stayed desperate, stayed creative, stayed useful, he'd stay alive. And alive meant he could keep his promises. All of them. Even the impossible ones. Especially those. The ship began to move, carrying him away from the moon, away from his old life, towards something he couldn't yet see but could feel pulling at him like gravity. The princess was somewhere on this ship. The Queen was somewhere making plans. Theron was somewhere probably questioning every decision that led to accepting a human shield brother, and Marcus was exactly where he needed to be. Claimed. Trapped. Free. All at once. It was the most desperate situation yet. He couldn't wait to solve it.